Miami Condo Mondays is a live podcast on the first workday of the week at 4 p.m. South Florida time. The program features former journalist and current Wall Street consultant Peter Zaleski of the Miami Condo Investing Club and former lender and veteran condo broker Jenny Huertas of CVRRealty.com. Recorded weekly in greater downtown Miami, this one-hour discussion will provide a refreshing and sometimes controversial perspective on the state of the South Florida condo market from a pair of seasoned real estate professionals who do not always agree. The program won't tell you what to think about the South Florida condo market, but will give you something to think about before buying, selling, taking listings, or financing units. This podcast is not authorized by the Miami real estate industry and will quite possibly annoy many of its figureheads. Welcome to this week's episode of Miami Condo Mondays, broadcast live on the social media accounts of Peter Zaleski and Jenny Huertas.
Happy Monday. This is Miami Condo Mondays. I'm Peter Zaleski. I'm the founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. Check out the website, miamicondo.club. It's Monday, so we're going to be talking condos. What are we talking about today? We're talking about the possibility that foreign nationals might not be coming at the same pace they had been, and what impact that is going to have on the South Florida slumping condo market. For the next hour, I'm going to kick it around with my partner, Jenny Huertas. She's the broker owner of CVR Realty. Check out our website, cvrrealty.com. Every Monday, 4 o'clock, we're going to go live, or we have been going live. We're going to talk condos. We're going to give you some insight. We're going to give you all kinds of stuff to think about, but we will not tell you what to think. That'll be up to you. So remember, every Monday, 4 p.m. South Florida time. All that being said, let me go ahead and introduce Jenny. Jenny, how's it going? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, Peter. How's everything?
Everything is fine. I spent the weekend, I was digging into some data, and that's basically what prompted this subject of this podcast. I was going through Miami International Airport statistics. I'd been complaining about why can't MIA release the numbers. I wanted to know what's going on with passenger traffic. Last bit of data that had been put out was as of March, but we all know the world changed on April the 2nd when President Trump announced his Liberation Day tariffs, which, oh, by the way, are continuing on. There was a big tariff against China that was set to come due this week. Lo and behold, they added an extra 90 days. So, they're kicking the can down the road. Some people in Wall Street, they call it the taco trade. So the taco trade seemed to have played out as it pertains to China. But basically, passenger numbers are down. And as a result of that, I want to talk to you, Jenny. What does that mean for international buyers, especially those that are critical to the South Florida condo market, which right now is facing 13 months of supply overall Tri-County wide. And then on a Miami-Dade County basis, you're looking at 16 months of supply, Jenny. And, what we discussed the last couple of weeks is equilibrium is actually 6 months of supply. Anything less than 6 months means the seller has the advantage. Anything more means the buyer has the advantage, although some of the real estate industry are trying to change that 6 to 9. But I've been taking to the airwaves everywhere, talking about it over and over and over. And so that's where we stand. 16 months of supply, Miami-Dade County, 13 months in South Florida, and international passenger traffic is down through Miami International Airport. Jenny, first reaction to that before we kind of drill down and get into some of the stats, and I start to ask you for war stories. You could share some of the insights you have because you've been working with international buyers for, much longer than your 20-year real estate career. You also did 10 years of finance before that. So Jenny, first reaction, international traffic down at Miami International Airport.
Yes, as we suspected, last we were talking about it, and I believe we did realize that, yes, the traffic is lower. I'm glad that you got the stats so you can really show numbers, that are given by the Miami airport. So it's official. But yeah, we noticing that for a while already. And the status of the world, to say in such a way, is affecting Miami. And we are an international destination. We are the door of Americans. We have all these names about what Miami is, a melting pot. But if the stats corroborate what we already have talked about, yes, it is a fact. And let's see how it's going to have an impact in our market.
So Jenny, the way I want to approach this is let me hit you with the Miami International Airport international passenger traffic numbers first. We'll
Mhm.
talk about that. And then we'll talk a little bit about big picture. We'll talk about back in the day versus kind of where we are today. And then we're going to kind of get into a study that came out by the National Association of Realtors, taking a look at inter, taking a look at international buyers and effectively where they purchase, what they buy, and how much they spend. And then we will wrap it up, and I'll ask you about whether or not you think, whether or not you're bullish, which means the horns up, whether you're bearish, which means the claws down, or whether or not you're sitting on the sidelines because you still haven't made it up your opinion yet. So hold your opinion about what you are right now, and let's go ahead and get into the Miami International Airport statistic. As mentioned, the numbers just came out. They came out for April, May, and June. Even though we're sitting here in August, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I apparently, and I've been bitching and moaning about Miami International Airport. How can this huge airport that's getting ready to go through a major refurbishment and expansion? How can they not release regular statistics? And that was the part that was sort of shocking to me. So the last couple of weeks I've been complaining because I've been sitting there waiting for the numbers because I wanted to see how the airport numbers
Mhm.
international correlated with this very aggressive immigration strategy that President Donald Trump has, where they're going around, they're picking people up. Some of the ICE officials, they're wearing masks so nobody can figure out who they are. There's all kinds of agencies involved with it. And I'm not trying to make it political, but what I am trying to say is there's a message that's being broadcast internationally. I'm an avid listener to the BBC radio. They cover a lot of international news. And many of the stories I'm hearing on the BBC are talking about how some countries are suggesting to their citizens this might not be the time to visit the United States. Countries, including Canada, of all countries, is saying this might not necessarily be a good time to visit the United States. So that's kind of why I've been looking for these Miami International Airport statistics. And lo and behold, they have just come out. So Jenny, let me hit you with the numbers real quick and then
Okay.
give you some context, and then we can kind of talk about it. So um,
Mhm.
so January through June of this year, 2025, and let's sort of set the scene. January 20th, President Trump gets inaugurated. He comes into office, immediately moves forward with an aggressive a strategy of rounding up people who are here illegal immigrants. You start to see all kind of video posted on TikTok and all of social media. It catches on. You got situations now where some of these ICE agents are going into Home Depot parking lots. Anybody who doesn't know the significance of a Home Depot parking lot is traditionally what happened is if you were doing construction, maybe you're doing the jobs on your own, and you need some day laborers. One place you could go was Home Depot because while you were getting supplies, there were typically guys outside, handymen, if you will, and I guess handy women, but you didn't really see them. But handymen, you could see if they wanted to be hired for the day. So now, in order to hit this requirement of 3,000 arrests per day, I guess ICE has decided to go into places like Home Depot parking lots and perform raids. They're hitting farm fields. They're hitting all kinds of other stuff. But all that's getting broadcast worldwide, and the world is watching it. So January through June of 2025 through Miami International Airport, this is going to include
Mhm.
deplaned and in-plane. So what does that mean? Did you get on a plane or did you get off a plane going through Miami International Airport? And what we found is there were about 12.6 million passengers, both sides, in-planed and deplaned. So this is a grand
Okay.
total. So if anything, you could split it in half, if you will, call it 6.3 or so, assuming everybody does a round trip ticket. But it's rough. But if we compare what happened the first 6 months of this year to what happened last year, international passenger traffic through Miami International Airport is down 1.2%. Now, what does that translate into real numbers? That's about 149,000 people. Now, you say, well, Peter, that's not a big deal. It's really not a big deal. So if you take 149,000 off of it, you compare it to where we were in 2024, it was about 12.8 million. So, Peter, 149,000, why are you making such a big deal? Which would be the natural response. Because when I first saw it, I said 1.2%. That doesn't really seem that significant. Jenny, any thoughts about a 1.2% drop and whether or not I'm blowing this out of proportion that we actually saw a decrease in international passenger traffic the first 6 months of 2025 coming through Miami International Airport?
Well, any decrease is always a worry for a city like Miami, just because it's not just real estate; it's shopping, it's restaurants, hotels, etc. It affects the whole city industry, if you will. And 149,000 people, it is an important number in not in percentage, you said, but is a lot of people that is not eating, no consuming, not buying, or not considering investing here. So yes, it is a big number. If you think that the people that come through that airport in general, they come to spend money always in one thing
Correct.
or the other.
They
So
need
these
to.
people don't come, they come to consume real estate or otherwise. But yes, it is a big number because we almost never see decline in that number. I don't know if you can go back in the stats. I'm going
Hold
ahead
that.
of you.
You always jump
Okay.
ahead. Let's go step by step, staircase up
Okay.
before we take the elevator down. So yes,
Okay.
Jenny wants to know, when's the last time that happened? Well, last time that happened, well, first and foremost, what I should tell you is if in fact for the rest of the year, we go ahead and we contract, we actually have the international passenger traffic down in Miami. This would be the
Mhm.
first time since the COVID year of 2020 that the numbers have been down. First time in effectively 5 years. But you say, well, okay, well, oh, that makes sense because COVID occurred, and this pace we're on right now, it got cut dramatically back in the COVID year. But then, if we broaden our scope, Jenny, you're going to see if we continue the year onward in this current trend of declining numbers, this would be only the fourth time in 20 years that Miami International Airport passenger traffic is actually down. So the last time it occurred was 2020, as mentioned. That was the year of COVID. Then we had
Mhm.
2014, and then we had again 2009. 2009 was right after the Lehman Brothers crash, and
Mhm.
there was economic uncertainty around the world. We didn't know if the U.S. financial system was going to melt down. We didn't know what was going to happen with the global financial system. I don't necessarily remember what happened in 2014 as the numbers, as to why the numbers were down, but this would only be the fourth time in 20-year period that we would see a decrease in international passenger traffic coming through Miami International Airport. What's your response to that, Jenny?
Wow. You know, I was ahead of you, but yes, then is a confirmation that even the number percentage-wise is low. It is a bunch of people, and it doesn't really happen in Miami that often. So yeah, it is something that we had to think about. We noticed it. We noticed it, right? We noticed it everywhere where we go.
All right, so Jenny, let's take this a step further. I told you that 1.2% decrease in international passenger traffic in the first 6 months of the year, and we both said, okay, well, that doesn't sound like that much. 1.2, who really cares? Or about 149,000 people. Who really cares? Well, let me give you the flip side of that. Flip side of that is coming into this year, the expectations were that traffic, international passenger traffic, would grow by 8.5%. 8.5%. So when we
Yeah.
should have gone up 8.5, we've actually contracted 1.2. So we're looking at a 9.7% swing. Now, what is that in real terms? What that is in real terms is if somehow in the last half of the year, we're able to hit this 8.5% growth as was projected. And where does this 8.5% growth come from? Well, 2023, 2024, they blended in about 8.5%. That's what we were growing at after the initial reaction to the COVID when they finally opened up the airports. You didn't have to wear a mask in Florida. And in certain parts of Miami, you could twerk on a police car. And everybody wanted to come here. So we saw a tremendous surge in
Hmm.
international traffic. And then we've leveled off in 2023 and 2024 at 8.5% growth. So expectations were we would grow again in 2025 at 8.5% growth. But instead, we're contracting by 1.2 so far. Now, what would that mean, Jenny, in real numbers? Well, right now, we're on pace to have about 25.2 million passengers international coming through Miami International Airport. If we would have hit which was expected, we'd be coming in at 27.3. We're talking 2 million additional passengers. That's how much of a swing it is. Now, that 2 million, again, D plane, N plane, split it in
Hmm.
half, call it a million people more. How much do you think developers who are selling condos, how much do you think that condo unit owners who have their places up for sale, how much do you think that they'd like to see an extra million people moving through Miami International Airport this year versus the pace we're on, which is 25.2 million passengers through MIA?
No, exactly. And as we mentioned before, people that come to Miami usually have money. Not everybody, but most of them have money. And having that number, when you put the stats that way, is incredible. I mean, it's like shocking for what it means in the next months if the trend continues in the same way.
Right. I mean, Jenny, if you look at that figure, you're talking about what, 85,000 additional people a month coming into town. There's got to be a couple condo buyers in there in that 85,000. Now, granted, maybe some of them are coming with their families and so on and so forth. But 85,000 roughly, and I'm splitting the difference. Remember, in plane to deep plane. So I'm dividing it and just going by half of it. So 85,000 additional would-be people per month we're not seeing coming into Miami International Airport. Now, Jenny, it's not to say they're not flying into other airports. Maybe they're flying into Fort Lauderdale. Maybe they're flying into West Palm Beach, Orlando. Maybe the airfares are cheaper. That could be an explanation. And maybe those airports are going to benefit. I have not looked into those numbers. I do not know what those numbers are, but I just want to kind of put that out there. But thus far, we're going to come up on the wrong end of what should have been a very positive year of roughly 8.5% growth. Instead, we're on pace to contract by 1.2% international passenger traffic through Miami International Airport.
Yes. Actually, I am curious to see the stats of the hotel industry or restaurant businesses. I mean, we don't have those stats, but I think they're going to have a huge impact. More than shopping for clothes, I believe. So it will be interesting to see what those stats are, but it's definitely a trend and it's a sign of the times that we are living. People probably postponing their plans. They say, okay, maybe this year we don't go, but we go next year. And some people think, okay, maybe I don't go in 2025 because it's very uncertain, and maybe I go on 2026 because it's the World Cup. And by then, things might be more steady, if you will. And that's probably the reason. I'm not sure why is it. We are speculating here, and but when you see the stats, it's definitely make you think is how many of these people will or not buy real estate.
Okay, so you're providing some optimistic news. Good. Let me also give you some optimistic news. And keep in mind when we talk about this in the Tri-County, South Florida area of Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County, Jenny, there's about 13,000 condo associations, about 610,000 units. Okay, so we got a ton of condos. Basically, half of the condos in the state of Florida are all going to be located down here in the Tri-County, South Florida area. And it's pretty easy. You fly into Miami, you fly into Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, a little bit different. But if you fly into any of these airports, you can kind of bounce around relatively easily. And now with the Bright Line, which is a private rail service, you can almost fly into Miami International Airport, jump on a train, and coming down to Miami relatively easy. I think it's like $39 each way on this lush, posh type of train. So, 610,000 condos, that's what we're looking for. And you said the World Cup's coming next year. So maybe that brings a bunch of passenger traffic. Maybe this is simply just a little blip and it's not a big deal. But let me give you some other good news, Jenny. Since January, the U.S. dollar has weakened 13%. Now, let me give that in layman's terms. Yeah. So if you came from Europe on January the 1st and you went through a cambio or an exchange, you gave them a euro, they'd give you $1.04 US. If you would have done that on Friday, August the 8th, you would have taken a euro and given it to the cambio, the exchange place, right there in downtown Miami is where they do it. There's a whole bunch of them lined up side by side. They would have given you back 117. So 1.04 January the 1st. Friday, 3 days ago, they would have given you 1.17. 13% depreciation depreciation of the U.S. dollar, weakening of the U.S. dollar. And traditionally, Jenny, whenever the dollar gets weaker, foreign nationals love it because they have more buying power when they come to the United States. So places like Latin America, places like Europe, anywhere around the world, it's suddenly Miami's on sale and the United States is on sale. But somehow, Jenny, passenger traffic is down. What do you make of that? Is that simply people make their plans so far in advance that, maybe we won't see the repercussions of a weakening U.S. dollar until maybe the second half of the year, maybe the winter time? Maybe there's concerns that, hurricane season now, let's not come now. What do you kind of make of a weak